Good morning. Sarah Levitt, General Counsel for the Alabama Real Estate Commission, and welcome to Coffee with the Commission. And I'm pleased today to have Serena Grayson with me. She's an attorney in the legal division and definitely an indispensable part of our legal team. Welcome, Serena.
Thank you for having me.
And today we're going to be talking about legislation. I know I've talked about this a few times before, but it is extremely important, and we are very, very busy in Montgomery right now. The legislature was out last week for spring break, but they're back, started back on Tuesday morning, and it's going strong. Serena and I were down at the State House yesterday. So I want this to be interactive as possible, as normally. So if you have a question, please raise your hand icon and we will unmute you and you can ask your question. So Serena, I'm going to hand it over to you to kick off to talk about one of the bills.
Thank you, Starla. I have in front of me House Bill 397, which has been filed by Representative Sellers in the House. It has not gone to a committee yet, so that would be the next step before it can be presented to the House for a vote. And so I wanted to briefly run through the legalese part, and then I wanted to tell you how it applied to us. So under existing law, there is no definition of equitable interest, listing agreement, nor owner. This bill would define those terms. Those terms needed to be defined because we have consumers and real estate agents being harmed by what we call wholesaling. So you may think, oh, that's flipping houses. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when someone ends up through a contract getting an equitable interest in a home and then they attempt to sell it. So what we're seeing is somebody has a house worth $75,000. Somebody will show up to that person's house and go, hey, I would love to give you $100,000 for this house. They go, yes, I would love to sell. They end up signing a contract for $100,000. They think they're going to close on the house next month. Well, there's usually a paragraph in this contract that says during the pendency of this closing, this person who the owner thinks is going to want to buy it is actually going to list the home. And so the owner oftentimes misses that clause in the contract, thinks the house is going to sell, and then doesn't sell. And so when they get to closing, the owner goes, I thought we were going to sell this house today. And the person says, oh, I tried to sell the house during this last month. I wasn't able to sell it. I'm about to relist it again. We'll try to close next month. And then they go, wait a second, you were trying to sell the house? A lot of times they don't even know this person was attempting to sell their home. Or right after they sign the contract, this person shows up at the owner's home and goes, I need to take pictures. Or the owner ends up seeing their home listed in a listing website and they don't understand how their house ended up on the listing website. Well, they actually signed a contract to allow this person to list their home, and I hate to say it slipped past them. It was in the contract, but they missed that part. We are usually seeing that clause in the contract because they'll contact us going, hey, I didn't know, I didn't mean to sell my house, or I didn't mean to list my house with this person. Please help us. We are unable to help anyone with that situation because they signed a contract and they missed a clause. And so these people, consumers, are being victimized, and they don't realize that they suddenly have gotten into this contract situation where they're now unable to list their home with someone else. So that's the other place we see it. The agents will call us and go, hey, this person just called me and they want to list their home with me, and they can't because they currently have a contract with a wholesaler. They never meant to get in this situation to begin with. What can I do? And unfortunately, right now, there's nothing we can do with that. So what we did is we made it where if you want to do this, you need to be licensed so that we can help regulate the disclosures, especially of equitable interest, to let the person know, hey, I'm wanting to acquire an equitable interest in the home, and then I'm going to want to list it. And then also so a potential buyer of the house can know that this person they're dealing with isn't the owner. Because right now, this person trying to buy the house may meet with this person with an equitable interest, and they may try to sell them the house appearing to be an owner when they're not an owner in the house. They merely have an equitable interest that was listed in a contract.
Serena, I'm going to stop you for a second because that's kind of how we're in this position is they're using our ownership loophole. I call it a loophole. It's really not. But if they're saying I'm the owner, therefore I don't have to have a license. And they're basing that on the fact that they just have this piece of paper. And right now in our law, we don't have anything to dispute this. So this would say, no, equitable interest does not equal ownership. The fact that your name is on the deed, that's what's going to equal ownership.
Yes.
And not only is this for consumers, but you know, the people doing this right now are actually competing with our licensees, and yet they don't have to follow any of our rules because they say I'm an owner. And, you know, that's not fair to our licensees either. And we want to give them a level playing field. Like you have to advertise like our licensees. You can't have a net listing, which is what is actually happening in this. So it's for consumers and licensees as well.
Yes, it should protect both. And so it has been filed, and we love to hear comments, suggestions about it. And it seems like people are really excited about this bill because it's going to protect the communities of Alabama, especially lower income, impoverished communities that really need assistance. And the Real Estate Commission, we want to be able to help them in any way we can. And this is one way that we can help protect them. And it still allows them to do it because I do understand that there's some really good things about this process. Sometimes these people are helping invest in a home that, I'm going to say flip it, but they help invest in it so that this person who may not have ever been able to sell the home can sell it. They may be putting a new roof on the home to be able to sell it later. So I've seen where it can be a good situation, but it's such a slippery slope, and we've had so many issues that this will still allow those people to do that. They just need to get licensed, and they need to be regulated, and we need to make sure that the consumers are really understanding what they're getting into, and then the licensees are also protected.
And you mentioned that this has been filed, but has not been to committee. So can you just kind of briefly talk us through the legislative process? Because I know we all learned about it, back in 6th grade in civics. But it's let me tell you, we tell people we have these bills filed, and the time goes on, and they're like, why is nothing happening? Can you just briefly kind of go through the process of what's happening down on Union Street?
Yes. First, bills go to LSA, they get drafted, and then they get filed by a sponsor. And this one is House Bill 397 with Representative Sellers. And then once it gets filed, it gets put on a committee. And then once it's assigned to the committee, then that committee is going to meet. It's got to get put on that committee's calendar. So it may not be the first or second time it meets, but eventually it should get put on the committee's calendar. And then once it goes, it gets considered by the committee. The committee may have suggestions for changes. The committee may like it just the way it is, and then the committee will vote on it. Sometimes there will be a public speaking portion of that committee where somebody may come speak on the bill, and it may get voted on at the next meeting. And so if it gets through the committee, if it gets passed with positive, support, then it gets put on the calendar to go to be voted on at the House. It may not be, again, the next day at the House, but it's on a large calendar with many other bills. And so then the House members have to determine when they're going to hear it. So it's my understanding that it goes to the Rules Committee, and then it gets put on a special order calendar, and then it gets set for a day. And some bills never end up making it through the calendar. Some get put on the calendar. If it gets put on the special order calendar, then usually it will get voted on. And that's the goal. Sometimes things happen, things pop up. It may go on a calendar, never get voted on. But that's the goal, is for it to be voted on. And then if it gets an affirmative, positive vote from the House, then it moves on to the Senate. And then if the Senate passes, it's the same process with the committee. If the Senate passes it, then it goes to governor for signature.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah, it's quite a whirlwind down there. I tell you, I've loved doing it. It's a whole new experience, but it's very interesting. Does anyone have any questions about the wholesaling bill that's been introduced by Representative Sellers? Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about a bill that has actually gone through that committee process. So we're now out of committee. This was a House committee, and this is House Bill 225 that was introduced by Representative Hollis and Representative Wood. Very, very glad that they that they introduced this bill. And this is, we call it kind of the educational bill, because the main component is a huge shift in the education of how someone is licensed as a salesperson and ultimately licensed as a qualifying broker. I have spoken about this bill before, but I kind of just want to go through the highlights of it. Basically, the feedback we were getting as the commission, it was that people were wanting kind of the bar to be raised when it comes to sending out new salespeople into the profession. And one of the ways we were talking about doing that, how do you do this, is through education, making sure they are prepared when they, hit the street to do that first house, that they know how to write a contract. They know how to execute the documents that are needed. They know what needs to be in their file if it's ever audited, different things like that. So we thought and when I say we, it's not us, we do, help with the legislation, drafting it, but the ideas come from task forces. And those task forces are, of course, made up of licensees. We would not be so arrogant as to sit here and write something that we think you need when we're not out there practicing real estate. So the task force gives us feedback, and then we go from there. And so, of course, one of the things they wanted to do is just raise that educational component. And the way we have done that or presented that in this bill is there's no pre and post license anymore. There's still going to be the pre-license, a 60-hour course that one would take to get what we would call at this time a temporary salesperson license. So that's your book knowledge to pass the exam. That's all that is. It's just feeding you the knowledge you need to get past that exam. And then under current law, you would get your temporary salesperson's license. And then under current law, you would then do a post license to then ultimately get your original salesperson license. This instead does a pre-license 1, the same 60-hour course as now, and then a pre-license 2. So after you pass the exam, after pre-license 1, you would not get a temporary salesperson license. You would then move into a 45-hour pre-license 2 course. And after you complete that course, that is when you would get a temporary salesperson license. At that point is when you would go to work for a brokerage. And then you still need some further education. The pre-license 2 is more of the real world. What are you actually going to do? Again, how do you write a contract? What documents do you do? How do you recap someone? These kind of things that are actually the real world instead of the theoretical world. Because as we went to law school, we learned the theoretical world is nothing like the real world. So you get out there and learn it as you go. So this is a lot of on-the-job training. When you get to your broker, you're going to then prescribe a 15-hour course that basically would focus you in the area you think you want to be. Do you want to do residential, land, new builds, property management? Which way do you want to go? And so we'd focus even more on the real world of what residential looks like. What does land sales look like? And then your broker would complete what we call a core competency checklist. And once we got that back, and basically they're affirming that, yes, you know how to do these certain things, then you would get your original salesperson license, good to go. So that's that portion of it. Any questions about that part? Okay, y'all don't have questions because you've heard me talk about this so much, which is great.
Well, Starla, this will help this will actually help our licensees too, right? So
yes,
whenever I think about it, I think about this part of the legislation as really protecting our licensees to make sure that they are prepared so they don't have to come in front of us, so they don't have to see us, so they are a better agent and will make less mistakes. And so they know our laws better. And don't you think that'll help them too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a firm believer of, knowledge is the key to success in anything, that and practice. Wait, and I do have a question from Tom. What's your question, Tom?
Say one more time how one goes from the first 60-hour pre-license 1 to a 45-hour pre-license 2. And
yes, sir. You're
did I hear that right?
Yeah. You're going to do the same pre-license that we need. That's now currently in the law, 60 hours. You're going to take the exam. Then after the exam, instead of getting a temporary salesperson's license at that point, you would then have to complete first a 45-hour, what we call pre-license 2. So instead of getting that temporary license after the state exam at the beginning, like you do now, it's going to be another 45-hour course until you're handed that ability to go out there and help someone with the largest, financial purchase of their life. So that's kind of the difference of just raising the bar some with that knowledge. And the pre-license 2 is focused more on the instead of the theoretical license law knowledge that you learn, it's more of the real world. How do I write a contract? And when I say this, and you guys are on this call, it means you care and you like to learn because you're tuning in. You would be amazed the stories we hear about new agents that have gone out into the industry and they have no idea how to write a contract. And they're a buyer's agent asking a listing agent who's been in the industry for a while, help me with this contract. I mean, that's the person you're negotiating against. And we have brokers that don't really know how to write a contract because maybe they never did a deal before they became a broker. So it's just kind of to up that. So the profession is just, we're raising the bar, hopefully, with this educational component. Do you have any other questions? And I also didn't mention this at the beginning, Tom, but all this legislation is on our website that we're talking about today. So you can go to our website and kind of take a deeper dive. Obviously, I'm giving a very brief overview of it, but you can take a deeper dive into it to kind of see exactly how it's laid out in the pending legislation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That leads me to what I just said about sometimes a qualifying broker not knowing how to write a contract. The other component of this legislation is to kind of raise the bar on who is going to be a qualifying broker. So right now, as you all know, 2 years as a salesperson, you can take the broker's course, pass the exam, and the next day you can open your own brokerage. Well, what is an unknown in this process that we currently have is you maybe have never done one transaction. Like you didn't do anything as a salesperson. You take the exam, you pass it, great, you're good at book knowledge, and you're opening a brokerage and you're bringing people into that brokerage, and you are now their leader. You are the qualifying broker. You are the ones that they're going to look to help you, and you have not done it either. So what we're building into the qualifying broker perspective is you still can do 2 years as a salesperson. You take the exam as it is in current law. Then you have to serve another 2 years as an associate broker. So you can't just boom the next morning open your own brokerage. You have to serve 2 more years as an associate broker. And then at that point, you would then, if you say, okay, I'm ready, I want to be a qualifying broker, you then would take a course prescribed by the commission that basically to make sure you know what you're getting into, you know how to be a qualifying broker. There will also be a component, and this comes from the state of Texas, I believe we're basing it upon, where you have to show that you've actually done transactions. And of course, this is going to look different depending on what you do. This can't be based on a number, because commercial deal, you may have closed 2 million in 6 months. Obviously, we can't compare that to residential. So it's going to be dependent upon where you have focused your license, your time as a salesperson, and we will make sure that you have some transactions, some experience under your belt before you enter into that. That is such an important role as a qualifying broker. And we want to make sure we have people that are ready, not just to lead, which is a different component that you can't really teach a lot of times, but to actually have the knowledge just to sit in that seat. And again, it is to protect not just consumers, which is what we're charged with doing, but as you pointed out, it's going to protect licensees, because sometimes the people we have come in here, they just weren't prepared to be in the position they were in and didn't have the knowledge or the skill set to be there. So I think it's for both sides. And it's not just for violations with us. I mean, that's kind of sometimes the least of your worries. It's for, lawsuits and different things like that. So that is another component of this legislation. Does anyone have any questions about that portion of it?
And Starlet, one of the questions that we've had is about, is this creating a specialized license? So yes. For the pre-license situation, a lot of people are going, well, if I take this course in land sales, does that mean I have a land sale license? And then with the qualifying broker, let's say you've got experience in commercial, does that mean that your qualifying broker's license is going to be limited to a commercial license? Can you tell them about that?
Yeah, absolutely not. And that is a great point, because we do get that question a lot. We still in our state will have a general license. This is just to kind of gain knowledge. And people have asked me, let's say I've been in residential for years and I'm tired of it and I want to get out in the country and I want to show some land. Can I come and take the land course? Absolutely, you can. It's there for you. Again, there's nothing wrong with learning something new every day. And that's one of the things I like about getting involved with the legislature is, every day we're learning something new. Mm-hmm. And so that just, that's just good for everyone. So no, it'll still be a general license. Absolutely. And the final part of this legislation I want to point out quickly, and this is just because it's my favorite part of it, is that we are taking out a portion of license law violation. It is the portion where if someone writes it's called the bad check law. If someone writes a bad check for a fee or fine or for anything to the commission and it comes back, then it's a violation of license law. This is the most violated portion of license law we have every year, especially in renewals. We'll have 150 to 200 people who violate this. It is a complete waste of time, because I think most of these are an accident. Most people pay through Alabama Interactive now. So you're typing in your routing number and your checking account number. You push one wrong button, it comes back to us, unable to locate account. You think you've paid, and we have to go forward on these. So because I do think this is not intentional in most cases, then if this happens, you will be simply notified by the commission. You will be given 30 days to repay us with certified funds. As long as you do that, no harm, no foul, nothing else happens. If you don't repay us, then your license will lapse, because you're getting a license for free when everyone else had to pay for it, and that's not fair. So that's how we're going to fix that. So that's kind of that's my favorite part of it. Because I just wanted to remind you that, of course, we have a commission meeting tomorrow here in Montgomery. But our next commission meeting on April 24th is actually going to be in Dothan. Super excited about going down there. I was there last week. I love that association. They're so hospitable. So we're going to be at the Chamber of Commerce. So that's going to be April 24th. If any of you live in the Dothan area, we would love for you to come visit us, come to a commission meeting. Other than that, I will just say, as I'll always do, we are here for you. We want you to reach out and ask questions before instead of on the back end to avoid any kind of trip to a commission meeting, except for to be a visitor and watch. So you can reach us at 334-242-5544. Our email is arec@arec.alabama.gov. Our website is arec.alabama.gov. We are also on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And our social media handle for all media sites is at AREC Alabama Gov. Also, please remember, if we send you an email, it is important. So please open those emails just to keep in touch with us, and we can keep in touch with you that way. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. That's it.